Welcome to my June 2019 reading summary. In this video I'm going to tell you a bit about my stats for the month of June, and I'll quickly go through the books that I read. In June I read 14 books. This is just as much as in April, but overall a bit less than in any of the other months of the year. In general, I took it a bit slow in my reading. I had a few days where I didn't read at all, but I'm okay with it. And also when we put it in a pie chart, yeah, it's pretty much the same. In June I read 4,512 pages. This is quite a bit more than in April, and I think part of the reason is also that I've read a long book. And I started it in the last week of May and I finished it in June. So part of these pages were actually read in May, but yeah, I'm counting it for the month that I finish it. And I read most of it in June, so overall pages wise it's not too bad in comparison to the other months. So yeah, this is pretty alright. The pie chart doesn't really show a whole lot of new information, but I like to include it anyway. In June I read no books by infants, I read 2 children's books, I read 3 young adult books, and I read 9 adult books. This is interesting because it's the first month this year that I've read way more adult books than of any other age range. And it is also a bit unbalanced. March and April were, yeah, somewhat balanced. Yeah, anyway, this is just how it happened. In June I reread 3 books. And 11 books were new reads. Genres-wise, I read 5 fantasy books in June, 1 science fiction book, 3 contemporary fiction, 1 rom-com, no historical fiction, 1 literature, no detective and mystery, 1 thriller. There was actually 1 book that was a literary thriller, so that's counted for those. No horror, no paranormal, 3 biographies and memoirs, and no information books, no Disney, and no art. And this graph shows the amount of books read per genre per month. So basically the previous graph, but then for all the months so far this year. I've slowly been reading a bit less contemporary fiction. Anyway, it's nice and colourful. The shortest books I read this month were I Hate Fairyland Volume 3, Good Girl by Scotty Young, 129 pages. My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness by Nagata Kabi, 143 pages. And Level Up by Jean Luen Yang and Thien Pham, 160 pages. Then the longest books I read this month were The Naked God, The Night's Dawn Book 3 by Peter F. Hamilton. This was a reread and it was 1257 pages. Then we have The Female Persuasion by Meg Wolitzer. This was 456 pages. The Kicking the Bucket List by Kathy Hopkins, 394 pages. And lastly, Stitches by David Small, 333 pages. My favourite books of the month were The Naked God by Peter F. Hamilton, The Night's Dawn Book 3. This was a reread, and so it is no surprise to me that it ended up being one of my favourites of the month, because I love this series. It is partly what got me into science fiction, so I was really happy to reread this last book. And then Duivelspact by Loes den Hollander. This was not like a new all-time favorite or anything, but I thought we should have more on this list than just 1 book. So yeah, I really enjoyed this thriller and I kept thinking about it the few days after I read it, so yeah. Then we get to the books that I found pretty enjoyable. The Kicking the Bucket List by Kathy Hopkins. This was a pretty good read. I buddy read this together with Emily from Novelle Novels and I really enjoyed my first buddy read. I Hate Fairyland Volume 3, Good Girl by Scotty Young. This was a nice and colourful volume. And then we have Fruits Basket Volumes 5 and 6 by Natsuki Takaya. Both of them were rereads. Be Prepared by Vera Brosgol with colouring by Alec Longstreth. This memoir about summer camp was quite nice to read. Stitches by David Small, also a nice graphic memoir. My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness by Nagata Kabi. I enjoyed reading this memoir and I look forward to read the next 2. Level Up by Jean Luen Yang and Thien Pham. This was also a nice story. A Silent Voice Volume 4 by Yoshitoki Oima. This was a nice continuation of the series. And lastly, The Female Persuasion by Meg Wolitzer. This was a nice read, but I did have trouble getting into the book, the first chapter, so it did make this list, but only just. And then we get to my least favorites of the month. First we have The Flower Kingdom, Cucumber Quest Book 4 by Gigi Digi. Unfortunately, I was quite disappointed with this volume. I found it really jarring and all over the place. Scenes change abruptly, and yeah, I was very confused. So unfortunately, this was a disappointment. And then we have Check Please Book 1, #Hockey by Ngozi Ukazu. And I was also disappointed in this book. I was confused throughout a lot of the sort of sports slang and hockey terms, as well as the more college slang. I was hoping to see more LGBT representation than I found the book actually had. And so unfortunately I didn't get on with this book. This concludes my June 2019 reading summary. Overall, I read a bit less this month than I did in the past while. It was okay with me. I've been doing some other things as well. It's a shame I didn't have more like favorites of the month, but at least I enjoyed most of my reading, which is good. Yeah. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in my next one. Bye!